lose the main or the fuel cell number 2. Okay, we want to keep the O2 and that kind of stuff working. We'd like to have RCS, but we got the command module system, so we're in good shape if we need to get home. Let's solve the problem, but let's not make it any worse by guessing.
This is Mission Control. Here we go.
Apollo 13 was launched from Kennedy Space Center on April 11, 1970. This mission was the third lunar landing mission attempted. Aboard the Apollo 13 was James Lovell, a retired naval officer of whom was also the commander of Apollo 8. Ken Mattingly, also a retired naval officer and aviator, and Fred Haise. The main objective of the mission was to explore the Fra Mauro Formation, a section of the moon, which was later assigned to Apollo 14. The flight passed over the far side of the moon at an altitude of 254 kilometers from the lunar surface. About 56 hours after liftoff, chaos struck. Initially believed by the crew to be a meteor striking the module, faulty oxygen tanks completely shut down, leading others to fail, after which they lost most of their supply of electricity, water, and light, leaving them with nothing. 200,000 miles away from Earth, the famous line, "Houston, we have a problem," was uttered by pilot Jack Swigert.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Soon after, Lovell reported seeing a gas of some sort venting out into space. The number 1 oxygen tank ruptured and ran out within 130 minutes of the initial accident. The crew had lost their entire oxygen supply, leaving them helpless. In order to make water, the craft had a built-in system which couldn't be powered or run because of the loss of fuel and oxygen. This left the crew with a limited water and battery supply to last them the trip back. The remaining power had to be saved for the return trip in order to use the lunar module as a lifeboat to return safely. To make a safe return home, the ground control crew had to go through different procedures and figure out a plan with very little time, giving high stress and risk for this secure return home. Methods to bring the power back to the module were developed within 3 days, even though the time of the procedure usually took was 3 months. With the limit on supply, the crew had to conserve what they had, resorting to drinking less water, replacing with fruit juices, also having to lower the ration of food, which eventually led to dehydration and the entire crew losing a combined weight of almost 32 pounds. An additional problem that emerged was the temperature that lowered to a chilling 38 degrees, making sleep nearly impossible for the crew and creating condensation appear on the walls of the module. After days of planning and direction from ground control, the Apollo 13 was able to make a safe re-entry back to Earth, landing gently in the Pacific Ocean, being retrieved by the USS Iwo Jima, concluding the most intense, death-defying mission in NASA history. But the story doesn't end there. Following the mission, pilot Fred Haise has been honored with several distinguished awards. He left NASA in 1979 to become a test pilot, where he remained until he retired in 1996. After the mission, Jack Swigert left NASA for a short time to become an executive director on the Committee on Science and Astronomics, eventually leaving NASA to begin a career in politics, unfortunately dying of respiratory failure on December 27, 1982. James Lovell retired from NASA in 1973, where he then ended up writing a book about the Apollo 13 missions. He now goes around the country to universities giving speeches on science. To this day, no other astronauts in NASA have overcome so many difficulties, living on as a reminder that humans can really accomplish anything.